Final Fantasy is one of my all-time favorite franchises. I have played a lot of Final Fantasy over the years, and I have wanted to make videos about these games for quite a while. I finally decided to start with Final Fantasy XII. So, now, Final Fantasy XII is not my favorite of the franchise, but it certainly is a unique entry into the series. They're trying out a lot of new things in this game. And yeah, let's get into it. It's not my goal to spoil the story, so I won't go into great detail about the story. I'll just start by saying it's a pretty good plot. It takes a lot of inspiration from Star Wars, both plot-wise and visually. And it puts a lot of its own little spins on a lot of the things, but, you know, it's definitely a lot of Star Wars inspiration. Now, character-wise, the main cast, I'm not really a big fan of any of the main characters, really. Like, they're not bad, but they don't really stand out to me a lot. A lot of people are big fans of Balthier. He is a big fan. And a lot of people are big fans of Fran simply because she wears a skimpy outfit. But, you know, again, but I do think most of the villains are actually pretty interesting and compelling and arguably the strongest characters of the game. But yeah. Like I said, the overarching story takes a lot of inspiration from Star Wars. It's rebels fighting the big oppressive empire and all that stuff. But, I mean, like I said before, it definitely has some unique twists and a lot of unique elements to set it apart. It's not in space, for starters. So all in all, it's a pretty mature plot. It's not exactly a kid-friendly game. Characters die and stuff happens, you know. Nothing super graphic, but, you know, it's definitely like on a... It's not like a kiddie game, you know. So, with that said, let's move on to combat. Now, in my opinion, basic combat in this game can be pretty boring. Now, instead of the classic, you can get into a random battle, you click the attack button, select your opponent. Instead of that, you just walk around and encounter enemies in the field. You do have the attack menu buttons and all that stuff that you can choose your target with and all that, but the most common way to fight in this game is by using the Gambit system. And by using the Gambit system, you can essentially program your characters. And, you know, you have your line of Gambits, and they go from top to bottom. So you place Gambits depending on, you know, the priority. So first time I played this game, I wasn't a big fan of the Gambit system. It felt like a silly way to just have your characters heal and auto-attack. But at the time, I really didn't bother learning it much, honestly, so it is true, against most normal enemies, you will mostly just run up to them and hit them until they die. But where the Gambit system really shines is late-game boss battles, because you try out the boss battle, you see what the boss does, and then you figure out the boss's weaknesses and all that stuff, and then you build up your Gambits to counter the boss, which is pretty interesting, you know. The most common Gambits are, for instance, nearest enemy, and then you select an action, so you tell them to attack. So if there's an enemy near you, they will attack them. And, you know, you can set to, like, if your character has less than 50% health, you can cast a healing spell on them. You know, you have a lot of stuff like that. But yeah, against normal enemies, most of the basic Gambits are usually all you need for farming, which is pretty simple. You just walk around, let the Gambits do their work, and all the enemies are dead. So with that said though, Gambits really are important, but they're not quite as important as the license boards. Because the license boards, well, you need to pick a good license board for a character. And that means that you need to get a good class, because license boards are essentially classes. You know, if you pick the white mage license board for a character, it will give them access to a large board consisting of nodes that can allow your character to use magics related to healing, buffing, and allowing them to equip white mage armor, weapons, maybe a few nodes to increase your magical and physical damage, or even just give you a flat HP increase. And each of these nodes need to be activated by license points. And that brings me to one of my favorite points about Final Fantasy XII, actually. Because Final Fantasy XII, The Zodiac Age, is a fantastic lazy grind game to play while doing other things. for instance, while watching TV, listening to music, podcasts, etc., it has the usual level 99 EXP grind, but then you also need to grind for license points. Killing enemies awards both EXP and license points. But unlocking the nodes is also just like the easier part of the whole thing, because you need to actually get the weapons, armors, and abilities you unlock the licenses for. For instance, if you get an iron armor license, it'll be useless if you don't have the iron armor to equip. Now, most weapons, armors, and abilities can be bought in stores as they unlock new items as you progress through the game, but you do need to find some in treasure chests scattered around the world. So world exploration, rare enemy farming, it's pretty key to getting rare abilities and equipment, which, you know, is why it's such a good lazy grind game. You're just walking around finding enemies, looking for the rare enemies, looking for treasures in all the areas and stuff like that. Now, when it comes to license boards, the really tricky part is picking 2 license boards. Each character works a little bit different and will have better synergy with different license boards, but then you have to consider that the license boards work together as well, because you get to have 2 license boards a fair bit into the game. And to explain, I'll use one of my favorite combinations, the Bushi and Black Mage. Now, Bushi is short for Bushido, so it's a job focusing on katanas, and the damage of katanas are based on your character's strength and magic stat instead of just one of them. So if you pick the Black Mage license board as your secondary, you gain more licenses boosting your magic damage, as well as licenses for all the black magics in the game, allowing your character to be a strong swordsman, but also a strong black mage. So that's kind of the things that you need to think about while choosing your license board. But that being said, you don't really need to sweat it too much about the license boards, because this is the Zodiac Age version. And in the Zodiac Age version, pretty early on, you will unlock the Hunter's Clan, which is in the original game as well, but their leader, Mont Blanc, is able to reset the boards you've chosen on any character you want as many times as you want. So you can refund all your license points and the board and pick new ones. So you can experiment with license boards as much as you want. This is a great feature. I really love it. In my first full game playthrough, it really allowed my Fran to go from a level 1 crook to a level 50 boss by simply swapping her license boards to a much better combo, making her output tons more damage and having more support spells. So yeah. But speaking of the Hunter's Clan, there's one more collectible that I want to talk a bit about. The hunts. Now, you receive requests for hunts. These are hunts to hunt a specific creature, so it's not like it's randomly generated. There are a set amount of hunts in the game, and these hunts entail going to the person who posted the hunt, talking to them, getting the location of the monster that you need to hunt. You go out, you fight the hunt mark, and then you kill it, and you go back, get the reward. Some of these hunts are some of the hardest fights in the game. But, in my opinion, there could definitely have been more hunts. Absolutely. Like I said, this is where the Gambit system really shines, with all these tougher fights, late game stuff. Yasmat is one of the most popular hunts of the game, which has, I think it has over 50 million health. And it's a pretty rough fight, but it's kind of fun, you know. You get to experiment with some stuff with that fight to get it to work, and once you have a way to beat it, you know, you can beat it. It's fun to use the Gambit system for stuff like this. This is what it was made for. But speaking of the toughest fights, there is a separate mode called Trial Mode. Trial Mode is 100 rounds of fights, from easy to the hardest fight in the game. And normally you're only supposed to save every 10 floors, but the game auto-saves at the start of each floor. So you could get beaten, and then you can simply load the autosave, either to retry the fight, or just load it normally, and carry over all items, EXP, license points that you've gained to your game file. This allows you to farm trial mode for rare items, EXP, license points, all that stuff. It's not my favorite feature, but if you do need to grind a bit and you're in a bad position to grind, you can always go into trial mode to get stronger, you know? It's nice. But all in all, yes, Final Fantasy XII is a really fun game. I highly recommend playing it, especially on a handheld console, like the Switch or the Steam handheld. I always forget what it's called. It gives you a lot more freedom in when you're able to play, so yeah. And you know, even if it's your first playthrough, I do recommend looking up stuff like rare gear, rare games, secret bosses, because they can be really tricky to find. Unless you know where to look, you know. Like there is literally a treasure chest that is invisible in a place where treasure chests usually don't spawn at all. And like, how are you supposed to find that without knowing, you know? The game does come with in-game achievements, so even if you don't have access to PlayStation or Steam achievements or whatever, you can still get some in-game. You still need to do some really tricky stuff to get those achievements. But yeah, like I said before, while I don't think Final Fantasy XII is my all-time favorite game in the franchise, it's absolutely a strong entry. I definitely slept on this game way too long back in the day, but yeah. It's got so many hours of content to go through, and like I said, a pretty good story. It takes a lot of inspiration from Star Wars. Doesn't make it bad. Yeah. I certainly have had a lot of fun with this game, and I think anybody who would like the lazy grind type of games probably would very much enjoy this game too. So, with all that said, thank you so much for watching my video. I hope you enjoyed it, and if you want more content, you can always check out my other videos. I make a lot of different videos, and I stream on Twitch under the name Slifer. I'll try to put a link in the description, and you're always welcome to drop by when I'm streaming. Have a great day!